Conrad is a workaholic. When he said a client had reached out, I actually understood. I even reminded him that work comes first, told him to head back quickly and not worry about me. But when I dragged my fractured leg downstairs to pay the hospital bill and saw the photo Michelle posted, Conrad kneeling next to her, applying ointment to her scraped knee, and the caption, "Who's the little dummy who managed to trip and scrape her leg just walking?" Conrad teased me for ages about it. My throat tightened instantly. I had a huge fight with him. He was clearly annoyed. You get upset so easily. If I'd told you the truth, would you have been able to rest and heal properly? After that, no matter how many messages I sent, he didn't reply to a single one. That night, I kept waking up from the pain during surgery because I'm sensitive to anesthesia. When I came out of the operating room and saw no one there for me, a kind nurse helped me down the stairs. Still, there was no reply from Conrad. Dragging my injured leg around, I had to deal with work and run errands alone, paying bills, picking up meds. The nurse, probably feeling sorry for me, helped me with most of the running around. On the day I was discharged, Conrad finally messaged me. "I'm coming to get you." I knew what he meant. He wanted to put this behind us. That was how things always were between us. He hated arguing. Every time I confronted him about something involving Michelle, he'd go quiet for a while. Then, when he felt like it was time to move on, he'd message me. By then, my anger would have fizzled out, and he'd come back in control like nothing happened. Sometimes it lasted 3 days. Sometimes 2 weeks. In the past, I would have been happy he was finally making time for me. But this time, I felt nothing. Getting through these past few days alone had forced me to calm down a lot. I replied plainly. "No need. I've already finished the discharge paperwork." He texted right away. "Then I'll come pick you up." "It's okay. I'll take a taxi. I'm already on the way." "Just wait, I'll be there in 30 minutes. 30 minutes passed, and still no sign of his car. It was already dark. 9:30. Still no message from him. I didn't ask. I waited another 10 minutes. Still nothing. So I opened the ride app and booked a car. I got home around 10:30 p.m. The driver saw I was on crutches and kindly helped me all the way up to the 5th floor. The hallway light was out and there were no security cameras, so I kept my best friend on a video call the whole time. The driver didn't seem to mind that I was being cautious. He just left once I got to my door. Still no message from Conrad. I didn't question him. Before walking inside, I tipped the driver, tidied up a little, and collapsed on the couch. Then I saw Michelle's latest IG update. Another photo of that all-too-familiar silhouette, Conrad tending to her wound again. Caption: "He just left and I immediately fell again. How clumsy can I be?" He was scolding me while wrapping my ankle. Too funny. When I first found out that Conrad had a lifelong female best friend, I was honestly uncomfortable. Every time I saw their little interactions, it hurt, but I couldn't help watching them closely. To my surprise, she had even followed me on IG. Later, I found out Conrad had asked her to. He said, "I'm always busy with work, and she's alone in City A with barely any friends. If she ever needs help, maybe you could be there." I was never that into IG, but after that, I started checking it all the time. Then I'd see the flirty, cozy posts between her and Conrad, and fight with him about them. In the past, I'd probably have been fuming by now, calling Conrad to demand an explanation. But now, I just tapped the heart button and commented, "A little dummy needs a big hero. You two should be together." Nellie called. I picked up. "I put in a request for you. We're bumping your salary to $1.3 million a year. How's that sound?" Our company had been expanding into a new market. The office in City B desperately needed a new director, and they'd requested me specifically. But I had always turned it down, too far from home, I'd say. Nellie continued. "And I also got you a special leave arrangement. Every 5 months, you get half a month off. That way you can still come back to visit your boyfriend. Sound good?" Turns out Nellie had always known. It wasn't about the distance from home. It was about the distance from Conrad. I smiled. "No need for leave, Nellie. I don't need it. When do I leave?" She paused, then her voice turned excited. End of this month. You better not back out. I'll start the HR handover tomorrow. I opened my laptop to handle some backlog from work. Didn't even hear the door open. When I looked up, Conrad was standing there, a slight frown on his face. Why didn't you answer your phone? I checked my phone in a rush, several missed calls. Around midnight. I went to the hospital to pick you up. You weren't there, he said, clearly frustrated. Oh, really? I sounded genuinely surprised. Sorry, I didn't think you'd come tonight. So I took a taxi home. He looked at me like he hadn't heard me right. In the past, even if he was late, I'd always call, at least to ask. Then we'd fight because I dared accuse him, and he'd freeze me out. I'd never just quietly go about my business without saying a word. He sighed. Actually, Michelle fell again. Her bones are fragile, even a small fall can be serious. I couldn't just leave her there, Anne. I know. I cut him off before he could finish. Calm, almost indifferent. Phyllis, he blinked, unsure if he heard me right. I looked up from my laptop like I hadn't caught what he just said. He frowned deeper. You're not mad? Mad about what? I smiled. You two are close. I know that. It's fine. He took a deep breath and sat down next to me. You are mad, aren't you? No, I smiled again. Honestly, I stopped caring a while ago. He let out a long sigh and grabbed my hand. I know I messed up. Let me be the one to make it right this time. Can we just move on? I tilted my head and chuckled softly. It's really okay. No need to make it sound so dramatic. Shock flashed across his eyes. It was the first time he'd taken the initiative to apologize. But I hadn't thrown him a lifeline. When your heart no longer holds someone, anger doesn't even come. I glanced at the time and closed my laptop. It's late. I want to sleep. As I stood up, a sharp pain shot through my leg, and I collapsed to the floor. Phyllis. Conrad grabbed my arm. I brushed his hand off, not even a trace of anger in my voice. It's fine. I just forgot my crutch. He frowned. Why do you need a crutch? I answered lightly, I fractured a bone. For a second, he just froze. Maybe he remembered what he told me earlier, that he was worried Michelle might have broken a bone. His expression suddenly got complicated. I'm sorry. It was the first time he'd ever apologized to me on his own. He even bent down to help me up. Let me carry you to bed. I didn't expect that. But I just shook my head and gently pushed him away. Forget it. Just grab my crutch for me. It's by the door. I'll walk myself. He didn't move. Wouldn't it be better if I carried you? In the past, if he had offered to carry me like this, I would have been thrilled. I'd probably have jumped into his arms without hesitation. But now, I don't know why, but the same words just didn't have the same pull anymore. I gave a faint smile. No need. I can walk on my own. He looked at me with a particularly conflicted expression. You're still mad at me, aren't you? I blinked. No. Back then, when I got upset, he'd get impatient. Now that I'm not angry anymore, he still seems unhappy. He stepped closer. If you're upset, just say it, all right? It's not like I wouldn't listen. Why act like this? Conrad's always hated arguments. Even though he's sharp enough to tear apart anyone's logic, he turned down the debate team's invitation more than once. Once he started working, he'd only talk when absolutely necessary. Whenever I got mad, he'd avoid me as much as he could. He used to say, I'm already exhausted from work every day. I don't have the energy to deal with your baseless accusations. I listen to Michelle because she's not in great health. We've known each other since we were kids. What's wrong with me being there for her when she needs to talk? If I actually liked her, what would that mean for you? Besides, she never criticizes me. Can you please stop comparing yourself to her every chance you get? Those words used to cut me like knives, over and over again. But now, thinking back, I don't really feel much anymore. Instead, I'm just curious, why does he suddenly want me to talk now? I let out a soft sigh. I'm not mad. Really? His breath caught slightly. Then why won't you let me help you? Because. I smiled calmly, as if I'd long forgotten the pain that had woken me up in the middle of the night just days ago. When I came out of surgery, I was alone too. He blinked. You had surgery? I nodded. You were busy at the time. I didn't tell you. His eyes reddened a bit at the corners. When he looked at me again, there was a trace of guilt, maybe even heartache. You should have told me. I shook my head. It's over now. I got through it on my own back then, and now I'm already in recovery. I'll be fine. He lowered his eyes, his breathing a little heavier. When he looked up again, there was more guilt in his eyes. So what, you're blaming me for not being there? I didn't feel like explaining anymore. I'm really not. Just bring me the crutch, okay? I want to sleep. If you're not mad, then why won't you let me take care of you? He took a step closer. I was already exhausted. I didn't answer. I hopped toward the door on one leg, nearly stumbling, and grabbed my crutch. Stop overthinking. Go to sleep. His fists were clenched tight. I ignored him and headed straight for the bedroom. After I lay down, I heard his irritated voice. Fine, whatever. I'm going to take care of Michelle. Then the door slammed. I glanced at the door, switched off the light, turned over, and closed my eyes. Before long, I drifted off to sleep. Conrad and I met in college through the student council. Back then, I was drawn to his calm intelligence. I had a crush on him for the longest time before I finally worked up the nerve to chase him. Including the 3 years after graduation, I'd been orbiting around him for nearly 6 years. Classmates who graduated the same year as me are making $1 million a year now. I'm still hovering around 600,000. Thinking about how I used to be top of my class, I really did let a lot of time slip by. I never messaged Conrad again after that night. My days were filled with work and studying for my certification exam. Nellie told me that once I passed, they'd bump my salary again. As for Conrad, after he left that night, he never reached out either. That wasn't surprising. He never liked repeating himself. If he could say something in person, he wouldn't bother texting. Usually, I'd be the one rambling on about all kinds of things, and he'd just reply with a simple okay or good. At first, I didn't mind. Until I saw the chat history between him and Michelle, their back and forth messages, and suddenly, I couldn't stay calm anymore. That fight ended the same way most of ours did, with his cold silence. Back then, thinking about all that would make me cry, and I'd find another reason to argue again. But now, when I look back, all those fights ended without resolution, just brushed under the rug. Compared to that, the pay raise I'm expecting feels way more important. I had thought about asking Conrad to grab dinner sometime, to talk about us. But to my surprise, he reached out first. He sent me a photo of a private dining room. Let's grab a meal together. I glanced at the restaurant page where I was just about to place an order, and realized we'd picked the same one. It hit me then, some habits really don't change. This was Conrad's favorite restaurant. I once secretly learned how to cook their signature dishes just for him. But he thought eating at home was too much hassle, and preferred coming to the restaurant. My cooking skills ended up wasted. That's a habit I'll need to change. Okay, I replied simply. At 7 p.m., I pushed open the door to the restaurant. I no longer needed the crutch, though I still walked with a limp. A waiter helped me into the private room. As soon as the door opened, I heard laughter. Really? Phyllis actually said that? If it were me, I'd never be so petty. Michelle was sitting beside Conrad, leaving me the seat directly across from them. I froze for a second, I hadn't expected a third person. Conrad looked at me and gave a soft smile. There you are. We were just reminiscing about old times. As he spoke, he subtly watched my reaction. Go on, keep talking, I said with a small smile, walking over and sitting in the empty seat across from them. Conrad's expression shifted slightly. I turned to the waiter. Menu, please. The waiter handed it to me, but before I could hold it for more than a second, it was snatched away. Michelle was all smiles, leaning toward Conrad as she pointed excitedly at the menu. Conrad. This one's really good. And this one too. Conrad chuckled, looking at her with a teasing kind of fondness. You little glutton. Be honest, it's you who wants to eat all this, huh? Michelle pouted. But it is really good. Conrad took the menu from her, marked the dishes she pointed out, and handed it to the waiter. The waiter hesitated for a moment, then turned to me. Only then did Conrad seem to remember I was there. Right, do you want to take a look? The waiter asked, handing me the menu. I knew that look in Conrad's eyes all too well. When I used to sulk in the early days of our relationship, he'd use that same look to study my every move. He even had it during the rare debate tournaments he attended, watching his opponents, waiting for them to slip up. Now he was using it on me again, as if he was trying to catch some reaction. But I just glanced over the menu and smiled. Looks good. You have great taste. For a moment, his hand paused, like he couldn't believe what he just heard. I handed the menu back to the waiter. Thanks. After the menu was handed over, Conrad didn't look too happy. Michelle clung to his arm with a bright smile and looked at me, teasingly. I heard Conrad pissed you off before. I just gave him a good scolding. I was in the middle of replying to a client message. I looked up at her words and smiled. Oh, that? It was nothing, just a small thing. But Michelle clearly didn't think so. She leaned in a little closer to Conrad and playfully pinched his cheek. Don't mind us, we've been like this since we were kids. I don't even like this blockhead. Don't worry. I just smiled and went back to replying to messages. Honestly, the only reason he takes such good care of me is because he owes me his life. Conrad gave a soft, indulgent laugh. All right, enough. No way. I bet you never told Phyllis about it. Michelle pouted. You don't know this, but when we were kids, he got into a fight with his parents and stormed out in the pouring rain. I went to look for him and ended up falling. The injury never really healed. When I finally went to the hospital, they found out I had a congenital bone density issue. That fall almost made it impossible for me to walk again. Conrad looked at me while laughing. Phyllis isn't the petty type. Why are you explaining so much? I looked up and smiled back. Exactly, I haven't cared for a long time. Conrad's face darkened. The food started arriving one dish after another. I had just reached out for a piece of honey-glazed ribs when Conrad snatched it up first and placed it on Michelle's plate. He chuckled lightly. Go on, this is your favorite, isn't it? As he said it, he glanced at me out of the corner of his eye. I simply smiled and reached for another rib from a different direction, putting it on my plate, all while still replying to a client's voice message. His expression changed immediately. Sit on the other side, Conrad suddenly said. Michelle thought she'd misheard. Conrad nudged her. Go on. Then he looked at me. Phyllis, come sit over here. Why? Michelle's eyes welled up with tears, but Conrad didn't budge. I looked at him, then took a bite of meat and said, It's fine. Too much trouble. He frowned. Phyllis, aren't you uncomfortable sitting there? Not at all. I'm still managing to eat just fine. He seemed like he had been holding back for a while. Is that all you came for, just to eat? We haven't talked in a week. Don't you have anything to say? I paused, stunned for a moment. We stared at each other, and I suddenly felt a strange shift, like I was the one who should have been asking that question all along. My phone rang, it was the same client as earlier. I picked up, had a brief chat, and then stood up to leave. There's a big deal on the table. The client wants to meet in person. Whatever's going on between us, let's put it on hold. You're heading back? I nodded and walked out with a polite smile. You two go ahead and finish your meal. I'll take you, Conrad said, getting up right away. No need. I'll grab a cab. Let's go. I'll drive. I didn't want to argue and keep the client waiting, so I gave him a polite smile. Well then, thank you. He looked at me, his gaze full of tangled emotions. Michelle quickly followed after us. I'm heading back too. Conrad, take me home too. Conrad glanced at me. I gave a small smile. If it's on the way, sure. Outside the restaurant, Michelle immediately opened the front passenger door. She was used to it. Back when Conrad had just bought his car, that seat had been mine and mine alone. He even hung a photo pendant of me from the rearview mirror. "So people know this seat is for my Phyllis," he said. I'd been over the moon back then. Then Michelle came to City A. He said they grew up together and that her parents had asked him to look after her. So the first time Michelle wanted to sit in the front seat, he hesitated. Michelle pouted pitifully. "I can't sit in the back. It's too cramped, bad for my legs." I walked over, leaned on the car with a smile, and said, "Sweetheart, your acting's worthy of an Oscar. The back seat is way more spacious than the front. You could lie down back there. If you could see at all, you'd notice my photo hanging from the mirror. Do us a favor, take the back seat, alright?" That time, Conrad lost his temper right away. "She's not in great health, and you're arguing over this? It's just a seat, are you really making it a moral issue? I've known her way longer than you. Are you saying you know her character better than I do? You've really changed. Get your own ride back." Then he opened the passenger door for Michelle himself. That night, I called Nellie to pick me up. By the time we got back, it was completely dark. Nellie, worried about my safety as a woman out alone, waited until I was inside before she left. Conrad didn't send a single message. The next day, the pendant in the front seat was gone. "Sit in the back," Conrad said, stopping Michelle. It was the first time he chose me over her. Michelle froze. Her eyes reddened instantly. "But I've always sat there." "Just sit in the back today," he said impatiently, glancing at me. I had already opened the back door. "It's fine. Doesn't matter where I sit. Let's just get going." Conrad gripped the steering wheel, checking the rearview mirror from time to time to look at me. Every time our eyes met, I'd just smile faintly and continue my call with a client. Polite, but distant. Since he wasn't saying a word, Michelle started to get annoyed. "I've been talking this whole time and you're not even responding. I'm really gonna get upset." Finally, he gave her a sentence. "Don't distract me while I'm driving." That only made Michelle angrier. She crossed her arms and sulked the rest of the way. I ignored it. After getting out of the car, I left with a simple thanks and walked into the office. Conrad instinctively reached out to support me, but a coworker got to me first. "No need. You should head back," I said, then glanced at the sulking Michelle in the front seat. "Otherwise she'll be too upset for you to calm her down." Conrad clenched his fist, his eyes glued to me as I walked into the building, like he was scared of something. I didn't look back. I still hadn't reached out to Conrad. In the past, I'd message him every day just to pester him a little. Now, 3 days had passed before I even remembered him. Since my leg's been acting up, I've just been living at the office. And Conrad? He's a total workaholic. Not coming home for 3 to 5 days is normal for him. But this time, he reached out first. "My parents want to meet you tonight." I froze for a moment. I joked before about wanting to meet his parents when we visited his hometown. He had hesitated and said, "They're not ready yet." Later, when his parents came to visit him in City A, he didn't go home for several days. By the time I had gifts ready to host them, they had already left. He said, "They were just here for fun. If you saw them, you'd start talking nonsense and ruin their mood. When the time is right, you'll meet them. No rush." He'd always kept it so secretive, why suddenly introduce me now? Then again, his parents did treat me well. Even though we never met, they sent me plenty of gifts through Conrad. I still have a Chanel bag sitting at home, that was from them. "Sure," I replied. I had prepared a gift, and Conrad picked me up to go back to his place. As soon as the door opened, I was greeted by laughter and cheerful voices from inside. There was someone else in the house. "Sweetheart, if Conrad ever bullies you again, just let us know. We'll teach him a lesson for you." Michelle giggled in Conrad's mother's arms. They looked just like a happy family of 3. I hadn't expected anyone else to be there, so I paused in surprise. In that instant, Conrad looked at me with a rare flash of panic in his eyes. "I didn't invite her. I didn't know." Michelle, noticing him, sat up and smiled. "Your parents came all the way to City A, and you didn't tell me? They'll think I don't care about them." As she spoke, she gave me a pointed look. I smiled lightly. "It's fine. Your family. Conrad frowned slightly. I calmly placed the gift on the table. Hello, I'm Conrad's friend. Phyllis. They looked surprised. Conrad, as if afraid to lose the moment, quickly added, she's my girlfriend. Only then did their faces break into smiles. He talks about you all the time. It's so nice to finally meet you. I gave a polite smile. Actually, Conrad and I, we're not a couple. What? They froze, turning to Conrad. You have another girlfriend? Conrad's expression darkened, but he quickly recovered. No, just Phyllis. She meant, we're getting married soon. I was momentarily stunned. He tugged my hand gently. It's my dad's birthday today. Let's eat together first. His father looked at me, face full of hopeful warmth. Really, Phyllis? Looking at his kind, expectant face, and remembering the gifts he'd brought me, I couldn't bear to ruin his birthday. I nodded. The two elders beamed with joy. During dinner, they even sneaked out to buy gifts for me. Conrad didn't stop them. He just looked at me. Thank you. With the happiness on his parents' faces, he finally seemed to relax too. After dinner, on the way back to the office, I quietly placed the gift beside their shoe cabinet. Conrad, urged by his parents, offered to drive me back. He looked more at ease now, and his voice returned to its usual calm. I know I haven't treated you well lately. I'm sorry. It's fine, I replied flatly. There's nothing between Michelle and me, not what you think. The person I've always wanted to marry. I know, I cut him off with a small laugh. You two grew up together. Of course she's special. But that doesn't mean you can ignore your partner. You're supposed to balance things, not play favorites. Most people wouldn't put up with that. He paused, visibly taken aback, then hesitated and nodded. For the rest of the drive, he seemed unsettled. Usually, in times like these, he smokes. Sure enough, when we stopped at a red light, he picked up a cigar. But then he glanced at me and put it back. I reached over, blocking the box, lit one for him, and handed it over. Once in a while is fine. Just don't overdo it. He looked surprised. You don't hate the smell anymore? I leaned on my hand and smiled. It's okay. Go ahead. After all, this would be the last time. He took a puff, but instead of relaxing, his expression turned more worried. His instincts had always been sharp. With his intelligence, he could sense something was off. I leaned back in my seat. You're smart, Conrad. Good at your job. But when it comes to relationships, you don't know how to handle things. You overlook how the other person feels. When there's conflict, you run away. I know you've never cheated on me. But cheating isn't always physical. With anyone else, it wouldn't have lasted this long. Phyllis. He cut me off, looking at me with a trace of fear. What's going on with you today? I lowered my head and smiled. Just talking. He looked troubled the rest of the way. When we got to the office, I opened the door to get out, but he suddenly grabbed my wrist. His eyes were red at the corners. So, we're still getting married, right? I paused. Why ask that? His grip tightened. His eyes visibly reddened, and his voice trembled. Right? Hey, what are you two doing? Nellie bent down and peeked into the car. Phyllis, the client's waiting. I gently pulled my hand away and gave him a soft, quick reply. Be good. We'll talk later. The speed and tone were like coaxing a child. His hand hung in the air. Conrad had too much pride to chase me down. That night, I was so busy I didn't go home, and he didn't text me. But the next evening, he called directly. When are you coming home? I froze. You're home? He was a workaholic, barely home twice a month. Yeah. I'll come pick you up. I held the phone with one hand, flipping through files with the other. Don't bother. I'll be home late. It's okay. I'll wait. I didn't know why he suddenly started caring, but honestly, I didn't need it. No, really. I'm carpooling with some coworkers. There was a long pause. Hello? I said twice before he finally responded with a shaky breath. Was it a male coworker? No. Why? He paused, then said in a low voice, nothing. Just be safe. If that's all, I'm hanging up. When I got home, I was met with a faint smell of smoke. The lights were off. Conrad stood on the balcony, surrounded by cigarette butts, one still in his hand. He quickly stubbed it out when he heard me, like a kid caught doing something wrong. I left the balcony door open, so the smell's not too strong. I smiled. It's fine. Phyllis. He stepped closer, and I noticed his eyes were red. The next second, he pulled me into a strong embrace. I'm sorry. Back then, when you were waiting for me, did it feel this unbearable? My mind drifted. Back then, he was barely home once a month. Finally, he promised to come back for dinner. I made a full table of dishes and waited all day. He finally walked in like it was no big deal. I sat at the cold table and confronted him. He looked tired. I meant to come back, but a coworker gave me 2 concert tickets. They're super hard to get, so I went. My heart dropped. With Michelle? He sighed. You don't like these things. But that's her favorite artist. It doesn't matter if I like it or not. I should have been the one with you. I'm your girlfriend. I almost screamed. He exhaled and pinched his brow. I don't want to fight, Phyllis. I clenched my fists on the table to keep them from shaking. I thought you remembered. Conrad, today's my birthday. I just wanted to have dinner with you. And this is what I get? He finally paused, and his tone softened. Sorry, I forgot. I'll celebrate with you now. I shook my head, tears falling. It's already over. It's the next day. He tried to stop me from walking away. It's just a little late. Why make a big deal? I just forgot. I struggled, but he grabbed me and forced me into a chair. It's just a birthday. I'm celebrating now. What are you mad about? Is this really worth it? I slapped him. The only time I ever hit him. He let me go. 3 days later, there was a small cake and a necklace on the dining table. But he never apologized. Did you want something from me? His arm froze, and he stepped back a little, surprised. Phyllis, today's your birthday. I glanced at the calendar and suddenly understood. Thanks, I said with a smile. I would have forgotten if you hadn't reminded me. But it's really late now. Let's just skip the birthday. No way. He grabbed my hand, unusually insistent for someone who never cared much about anniversaries or pointless dates. This day matters. It's your day. I mean it. Let's not. I'm busy. Phyllis. His eyes reddened again. He clenched his jaw like he was trying to hold something back. In that moment, all his usual intelligence and composure vanished. He looked just like a child afraid his parents were about to get divorced, desperate to speak but unsure how. For someone as proud as him, begging me like this? That wasn't like him at all. Thinking about what I was about to say, I decided to keep things peaceful. All right, then. Let's start. His jaw tightened so hard that a muscle bulged at the side of his face. But Phyllis, it's already the next day. I glanced at the clock. Midnight had just passed. Phyllis, why didn't you come home earlier today? Does it really matter? I just forgot. I said flatly. His grip on my hand froze. It seemed like he'd said those exact words once before. I tugged him toward the dining table. Let's begin. And there's something I've been meaning to tell you. There was a cake on the table. The candles were already in place. I lit them and said, this cake isn't just for your belated birthday. It's for the conversation we've been putting off. Forget it. Conrad suddenly stepped back. I turned to see him grabbing his jacket in a rush. I just remembered something urgent at work. Your gift's under the table. I'll head out now. I opened my mouth to stop him, but he bolted like he was escaping. In less than 3 seconds, he was out the door. I blinked and bent down to pull out the gift. It was a classic-style engagement ring. I closed the velvet box and placed it on the shoe cabinet, right where his parents used to leave me presents. For a while after that, I heard nothing from Conrad. As if hiding could somehow change how things would end between us. But what he didn't realize was, you don't need a dramatic confrontation to break up. I sent him a message. Let's break up. He never replied. But that wasn't my concern anymore. I blocked him everywhere. Not long after, Michelle reached out. What did you say to him? Ever since you left, he stopped treatment. What the hell did you do to him? I froze. What happened? I rushed to the hospital and finally found out, Conrad had spiraled. He buried himself in work, barely ate, and refused to listen to Michelle. He said he needed to forget something. Then, during a visit to one of the research workshops, there was an explosion. The flash temporarily blinded him. But he refused treatment, screaming that he wanted to see a girl named Phyllis. They had to sedate him to get him into surgery. During his recovery, Michelle tried to pretend to be me, forcing food into his hands, mimicking my voice. But he saw through it every time. He just kept wasting away, hoping his eyesight would worsen with each day. I stood at the door of his hospital room. He lay there, listening to an old voice message I had once sent him. A tear rolled from the corner of his eye. The doctor said you're not supposed to cry. He jerked upright at the sound of my voice, reaching wildly into the air. Phyllis? Is that you? Are you here? I picked up the bowl of porridge from the table, scooped a spoonful, and held it to his lips. This time, he didn't resist. He swallowed it quietly. You don't have to do this. I'm leaving soon. His hand fumbled around until it found mine, then held on tightly. It's okay. When your trip's over, just come back to see me. Please? I won't be coming back. Though his eyes stared into nothingness, I saw the panic flash through them. Conrad, I'm moving to City B for work. His lips trembled. He opened his mouth, words circling but refusing to come out. It's okay. I'll wait for you, no matter how long it takes. Or maybe I'll recover quickly and come find you there. I'll quit my job here if I have to. It's no use. My voice was calm, like I was talking to a polite stranger. I don't love you anymore. His eyes welled up. Don't cry, I said. He clenched his jaw, forcing the tears back. But when my parents visited, you said. I smiled. I was going to tell you, everything they gave me is under the shoe cabinet. Including the ring you bought. The key's on top of the cabinet. Make sure you take it when you get home. The veins on the back of his hand popped, and he struggled to hold back his tears. He was shaking, unable to say a word. Conrad, this visit marks the end for us. All the mistakes we made when we were young, let's leave them in the past. Let's end this peacefully. I wish both of us a bright future. I pulled my hand from his, gently, but firmly. As I reached the door, it was like something snapped inside him. Phyllis. Don't go. The nurses rushed over to hold him back, but he fought like his life depended on it, still unable to get anywhere near me. The 4-needle tore through the skin on his hand. He didn't even flinch. His eyes searched blindly for where I might be standing, tears streaming down his face. Phyllis. Don't go. I'm sorry. Please come back. Michelle grabbed him. Stop it. I can take care of you. Stop chasing her, can't you? For the first time ever, Conrad pushed Michelle away. She stumbled and fell hard. I looked at her, clutching her leg in pain. If you push her like that again, she may never walk properly again. Conrad's tears fell freely. The nurses quickly rushed to push me out. Go. You can't make him cry anymore. But Conrad didn't give up. I don't want her, I want you. Phyllis. Please, don't let her leave. I love her. Don't let her go. I was already outside the room. My final glimpse of him, being held down as they tore off his bandages to treat his wounds. Then I turned and left. Outside, the sky was wide and clear. Nellie called. You're leaving tomorrow. Is everything I mentioned ready? I let out a soft laugh. Yeah. All ready. The end.